Good morning. I'd just like to make a few remarks before I invite Tom over. One of the things that comes to mind now when we talk about this topic of looking beyond business as usual, there is this term that is going on, the new normal. What is the new normal? We ask what can overturn our assumptions of the future? And what trends could disrupt business as usual? If I'm not wrong, Tom, you seem to have a tagline that goes, we keep, and we are supposed to be guessing. I don't know, we keep, the problem is we keep something. And we want to see, we keep our word. So we will be looking at what are some of the disruptions, perhaps, that disrupt the insurance industry. This topic of disruption, we also brings to mind another thinking that business leaders need to think as insurgents. And thinking of insurgents, we have to be very careful of disruptions. Because if you're not careful, the insurgents soon become the incumbents. And we need to think of a few people. I just want to, as it comes over, tease your mind with a few people. Think about the entry of Steve Jobs and what he did in the Apple world. Not too far, something that is currently happening. Think of Trump. People are talking of him joking. He's moving. Usain Bolt, Richard Branson. All those are names which perhaps when you look at are some of the disruptions that we in a blink ignore. How did the bookstores lose to Amazon? So what I'm arriving at is in competition. If we do not position ourselves, you don't position yourself, you position the competition also. So don't just think of yourself, position the competition. And in the business today, we have agile, innovative, and hungry corporate insurgents who are ready to disrupt our world. So this begs the question, then what is the role of strategy and planning? What do our mandates, our vision, and strategic plans, do they have a role? Let's put our hands together, and as I invite Tom to speak to us this morning. Tom.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see some familiar faces, and even nicer to see some unfamiliar faces, because I will then make some new friends. I'm always grateful to Kim for occasionally giving me an occasion or an opportunity to share a few thoughts. So what I thought I would do is to discuss a few ideas using insurance to just highlight the disruptive nature of the businesses or business environments we operate in, and therefore pose the question at the end whether in fact we need to do strategic plans. You know, it's very popular to have 5-year strategic plans that you review every 2 years. Is there any point in setting up a strategic plan? Or in fact, are we better off just spending more time responding quicker to events that happen around us? As leaders, one of your responsibilities that might not be on your JD is to see around the corner. Because as a leader, you should guide your organization and the people that work for you on what's ahead before you take the turn. In the current environment, depending on, irrespective of what industry you are in, we are dealing with heightened consumer expectations. I think someone mentioned yesterday that industry boundaries continue to blur and as they transform into interconnected ecosystems. In the insurance industry, we often get compared, the rate at which we respond to either claims, inquiries, and so on, we get compared to banks, our cousins in the financial services. It doesn't matter which industry you are, the customers you serve experience some level of service in another industry. It could be the supermarket, it could be their car dealership and so on. So you will increasingly find that you are being compared to other industries. And days will soon be gone when it is enough to compete and do well amongst your industry mates, and in fact have to look at the best in class across the world in different industries. The issue of new entrants, I don't think there is an industry that is safe from new entrants. In the insurance industry, this is already happening. We saw the entrance of Prudential, a big UK insurance group whose balance sheet looks like a country's budget reading because of its size. They have had huge success elsewhere in the world, and I think they will be quite disruptive to this market here and the region if they get their act together. We must respond to this. I think if our strategic plan of 5 years ago was ending this year, we hardly would have projected, I doubt, that Prudential would be part of what we would have to deal with. It is said, and it is true, that a fifth of the world's biggest companies by 2010 do not exist today. I know that's baffling. Let me repeat it again. There is very high chances that a fifth, the top FTSE 100 companies, a fifth of them do not exist today. And I'm just talking about 5 or less years away. But a lot of our customers now are getting more and more comfortable with new technology. I remember getting annoyed when banks said you could not write a check of more than 1 million shillings. You had to do an RTGS. And I think most people will resist change. But what I have noticed, and it might be the case in your industry, is that the younger generation are getting comfortable with changes a lot quicker than we ever did. And your business needs to see what it can do to respond to that. In the insurance industry, a lot is changing. I am told that by 2020, wearables, the things you walk about with, whether it's your 2 phones, an iPad, bracelet, and so on and so forth, will be worth $12 billion in just 3 to 4 years. So you can see as insurance companies, we used to be comfortable insuring stocky things that were fixed, like we were told buildings don't move yesterday. An insurer, a typical traditional insurer, is comfortable insuring a building because it's there. But you can see now that a lot of value will be moving about. What are we doing to ensure we are able to insure movable things? By the way, Uber and similar companies do not have assets, yet they are the most valuable. So again, the concept of insuring virtual or moving or movable things, that's an issue that we are having to deal with, and I'm sure those that respond better will do better than others. Regulatory response. Insurance, like banking, is a regulated industry for obvious reasons, because we are picking or collecting funds from the public. I am told, and I don't know whether this is correct, that M-Pesa would not have happened if the late Meshoke was not the acting finance minister at the time Michael Joseph brought this up, because as we know now, banks were really fighting this new innovation. The point I'm trying to make is that if regulation swings too far one way, it can smother development. In insurance currently, we are ashamed that we really focus more on price optimization or fighting against each other on price. And the insurances you have most likely are, the premiums have been determined by making very wide-ranging assumptions. You just saw in the video clip that the insurer of the future is the one that will tailor-make premiums according to your specific characteristics or circumstances. If someone goes to the gym every morning, why should they pay the same level of premium for their medical or life insurance as some of you sitting here who last saw a gym when you were passing by? You know, or when you are in a hotel waiting for your lunch companion. Incidentally, as an insurer, let me take this opportunity to really encourage you to do some exercise. If you are a good driver, and I'm not talking about ladies necessarily, Salome, why should you pay the same amount of premium as a careless matatu driver, for example, or as a careless drunkard, which in actual fact is pretty much happening currently? If I can move to distribution channels, the youth apparently make between 60 again and 70% of this country. In other words, most of you in this room do not count if you are to use population numbers as what determines what's good for the country, which is humbling. And any business represented here that does not have a strategy, if you like, for the youth is destined for its deathbed, to borrow the term that was used by my namesake this morning. If there is no avenue for the youth to engage with you at night, by the time you open your doors tomorrow at 7, thinking it is very early, they will have purchased their insurance 4 hours earlier as they left the bar waiting for the Uber taxi. The other thing we have noticed with the youth is that they compare a lot with each other, and they trust and listen to one another more than they trust organizations. So if your daughter is told by her classmate, university mate, that the best thing to buy is Y, it doesn't matter what advertising you do as a business. If Y, what they have been told by their companion, doesn't seem to agree with what you are saying, they will listen to their fellow youth more. Good news travel, all right? And if you have social media, you can transmit good news fairly quickly. But bad news travel even quicker. And if your business has no strategy around the social media, I think you are doomed as we go into the future. The social media has already been a disruption. I mean, look at the value of Twitter and Facebook. And what is Facebook? Do you know you cannot touch Facebook, yet it is worth billions of dollars? I can see my friend here, he probably understands these numbers better. How can the air be worth billions of dollars? The rise in the usage of technology, as I have said, brings an interesting perspective, because the generation we are looking at currently is what I call, and I have heard others refer to as, the instant coffee generation. If you're not offering an on-the-spot solution, or in some instances, if you're not offering your client the luxury of buying what they want from the comfort of their living rooms or in their car in traffic, then you're losing out. At the moment, looking at the insurance industry, we pretty much specify what a policy involves. You know, this is what you can buy from us at this premium. But we have already seen from the youth that they like doing things themselves. So if a certain rider can only come with a certain policy, suppose they want different. Suppose they want to pick this benefit there, that benefit there, and make up their own policy. I think the insurance company that is able to do that, or that will be able to do that fast and quickly, is the one that will be alive tomorrow. Focusing a bit more on technology, because you can use the past to predict the future. I think the most disruptive element, Salome, in the last 10 years has really been technology. As we saw in the video, the predictive modeling tools that try and predict what a customer wants before they come through the door is what will distinguish any of us here. It doesn't matter which industry you are in going into the future. I actually read somewhere, and I think it is dangerous nowadays to read, that every 2 days we create as much information as we did from the beginning of formal records to 2003. So if formal records go back as far as 700 years, what we are basically saying is that every 2 days, like the 2 days we will be here at the Kim Summit, we will have the world will have created more data than the 700 years before 2003. Just think of that. And in that data, that is where information about trends, so that you can posture appropriately, needs by customers, inclinations, that's where that information is stored. And the organizations that will be able to, A, know which part of that data mountain to go to. So it's not enough to be able to get the data. It is what data are you getting, what is more appropriate for what your organization is set up for, and assess and process that data quickly and accurately, and make decisions based on that. That is the institution of the future. Because big data, like it or not, is a huge disruption. So, as I said at the beginning, do you need those elaborate 5-year strategic plan that board members are so fond of referring to? Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you for those questions. Starting with my brother here on insurance companies embracing, if you like, the technological advancements that we see, such as the Bitcoin technology. I would be the first one to admit that we have not done very well. Our scorecard has a gap that we need to rise up to. The most that we have ventured into technology from where I sit is perhaps in index insurance, where we try to predict the weather and therefore determine what premium settings we would have for our farmers or our livestock, whether they are crop farmers or livestock farmers. But in terms of adapting and embracing technology, we haven't. And this is one of the reasons, in my view, why insurance is normally seen or referred to as the poor cousin of banking. But we will change this, and any banker in the room, take my word. I look for the day when, instead of saying certain things, when something is certain, instead of saying that you can take that to the bank, I wait to see the day when that phrase will be changed to you can take that to the insurance company. You will obviously all know about the cloud, and I think it has come to help a lot of us where we were previously investing in hardware and so on. We don't nowadays. We don't have to, and therefore that makes the investment in technology a bit more bearable. Those would be some of the comments I would make on the questions.
Thank you very much.